briefly, I am the co-chair of Cynergy. I'm joined with my co-chair, Kendra Wheeler, as well as Candace Sanborn from Radiant Image. Just a little bit about Cynergy before we get into the presentation. So Cynergy's mission is to help like-minded people get involved with networking, volunteering, and growth opportunities. This meeting is part of our Cynergy's Excel at Work series. So what the purpose of that is to educate people in the workforce on topics that can help them better succeed in their current job. If you have any questions, you've noticed there's a group chat box that Kendra actually sent a welcome message in, so please feel free to put your messages there and we'll answer them as we can. I'm going to now turn it over to Kendra Wheeler, who's going to give an introduction to our speaker. So Kendra.
Hi everyone, thanks Peter. So we're really excited to have something a little bit different that we haven't done before. And we're joined by Candace Sanborn. And when Katie had me introduce her, I went and kind of perused her website. And what I love about Candace's materials is she's very diverse. So from the sounds of it, and I'm sure she's going to tell us about it, but she can help you from your business to just your personal life, which I think is great. And I actually want to steal a quote from her website, and it says, "How we see ourselves impacts our happiness and our energy. It reflects in our appearance and the way we interact with others, creating impressions about our likability, competency, and credibility." So she's been in marketing and branding for over 25 years and just recently started her own business in 2019. So Candace, take it away, and thank you for having us.
Well, good morning or afternoon, I guess it is now, everybody. Noontime. Thanks for joining in today and for those introductions. I'm excited to share some things with you about how you can look better in an online world and have a really good virtual presence, which is really dominating the landscape of our lives these days and for the time to come. So we have a lot to get through, and so I'm going to cruise right into it. We're covering 4 sections today, and at the end of each section, there's going to be a question period that I believe is going to be managed, and because I really want to hear from you. It's, you know, talking at you gets a little tiring, but hopefully it'll be engaging and fun, and you'll learn a few tips to take with you. So the first thing we're going to talk about are lighting and backdrops for virtual meetings like this. So I'm always interested to see what people look like, what their backdrops look like when they come online. And so I found this in the paper the other day, and it really kind of hit home for me because the background of what you're seeing behind me and the others in the chat today, you know, it shows something about them. And it has an impression. It makes an impression on how they look and what you might think, and it's all part of that overall image development. So what we're going to look at is how to create favorable lighting and backdrops for this. So, and to keep the focus on you versus what's going on behind you. So the first thing, this is part of my kitchen. And we all work in our kitchens or children's rooms or other places in the house. And so I wanted to show this because it will be part of what I show you more of in a minute. So when you're doing something like we're doing right now, the angles matter. So you don't want to be backlit, you don't want to be side lit, you don't want to have the screen looking down and be blue lit, like you look kind of funky doing that. You really want front light and soft light, and preferably natural light. And I know that's not always possible, and we'll talk about if that isn't. And sometimes that's because it's a space you're in or because it's nighttime. And how do you do this? Because you can apply these tips to not just business related things, but also, you know, you might be gathering with relatives and so forth in your personal life in this kind of setting. So natural light being the best one, but even if you are lucky to have a window around that you can sit in front of and have the space, you don't want direct sunlight because that's going to be way too much. You want it sort of a little bit diffused. So here's some pictures of me in that kitchen sitting at that table, and here's one with the window behind me, and you can see how my face has gotten shaded. by this. And I'm not even sitting straight up because some people have even bigger windows and that's all you can see is the window behind them because they're muted by comparison. Over here, I've closed the shade and you can see my face a little bit better, but it's still not the best. And here I've gone around to the other side of the table that was in that kitchen shot that I showed you. And you can see the light on my face is the best. There's no shadows. You can really see me. Now there's some other stuff. This is a little office area I have here. We'll talk about the backdrop in a minute, but for right now, we're focusing on light. So you can see the difference that makes. So here's an exercise that we won't do right now because in the interest of time, but I'd like you to take note of it and maybe try this on your own afterwards. You know, go to the space that you normally set up at and take your cell phone and flip your camera lens around to face you. And then move around and see how the light changes with your face. And if the light is not good in the place that you normally do it and you're seeing more dark shadows than you thought and you can't get it right, then maybe you could try to find another space and do the same thing and get it to a place where that light is sort of clear on you. So that's a quick little thing you can do to kind of see what others are seeing in terms of light on your face. If you don't have good lighting, you can make something up. And I created this one here that you see on the picture. It's made up of one of my laundry baskets and a light from a spare bedroom that I have and a file box. So basically anything that you can grab in your house. And you want the light to be coming from behind the computer. So, and you want it a little higher because the best light is coming down on you, not directly at you. So you want it kind of diffused. And it doesn't have to be a light like this. It could just be, you know, one with a lampshade, as long as it's a little bit higher. And then you want to center it in the camera lens on your computer. And then you want to be centered on your camera lens too, so that everything is centered together, the light and you and the camera, so that you look in the center and the lighting is coming down good. If you have overhead lighting that's really bright, or again, you have a window, make sure if you can diffuse those things so that that light, that's that back light that we were just talking about, is really the focus. And try it out and use your use your phone like we were talking about, because you'll really see a difference in how you look to others. So in terms of where your computer should be, so we talked about light, now we're going to talk about angles. Like the light, it's best to have a slightly downward focus. My laptop right now is sitting on that file box that I showed you. You could also have a little tripod that holds your phone if you're doing it on your phone. If you're doing it on a desktop, then you could put something under your desktop, some books or something to raise it so that it's coming down, because the most flattering angles are always angling down. And then you take the screen and adjust it. And really the goal is, the way I'm looking at you right now, I'm looking straight. I'm not looking up and I'm not looking down. I'm looking straight into my camera lens because it's at a height that's easy for me to do that. Usually the right distance, which is what I'm sitting today, is an arm's length away. So you can kind of touch your computer if you need it. That's a good level from here up. You don't want to be like this and have no neck. And you probably don't want to be too far back. So here's a couple of examples of what it looks like when you do and don't look into the lens. So a lot of people sit on the couch with their laptop or their phone and things like this, and they've got it down and they're nice and comfy, which is great, but they're constantly looking down. And so that doesn't replicate that eye contact that we all look for in in-person types of activities. And even though there's, you know, lots of us here on boxes and things, when you are talking, you really need to try to make an effort to create that eye contact with the other people. you can do that in part by, like in Zoom here and other platforms, by taking the screen. This is just a close-up shot of my computer, and then moving it, which I did with this one, up to the sort of the top, near the top of the screen, in the center of the screen, so that you're looking at the person, if it's one person or maybe even a small group. Like I'll move this group, all you boxes over to the center, so it's easier for me to look at the people and at the center of the lens at the same time. So that's just a side trick that can help you look into the lens. Another tip is just declutter your background. You know, we don't always, other than the light, we don't always look at what's behind us. So, you know, something simple is best. I'm trying to demonstrate that today. I've got just a wall. I've got one painting here, and it keeps the focus on me. You could have something, maybe a table with a few items that relate to what you do. That's very nice too, or a plant or something. I'm not a fan of the fake backgrounds. I was in this business BNI meeting the other day, and the guy who was the host had a fake background where he was sitting on a beach, and the palm trees were swaying in the breeze. And I found myself focusing more on the palm trees and the beach and thinking about the beach than what he was saying. So you really don't want your backdrop to be doing anything. You just want it to be bland but pleasant and decluttered, so that the focus remains on you. Those fake backgrounds might be great and fun for, you know, with friends or something like that, where you're playing around and having a good time, but not for a professional kind of setting. So again, one way to check this is to take your phone, turn that camera lens around again, and see what others see in your background. And I'll show you, here's a part of my studio that I'm in today, and you can see the difference in the shots. I've got some pictures up here, I've got some stuff laying over here, I've got the Kleenex box, and over here I've taken all of that away. So that there's still some things going on, but it's not looking messy, basically. Here's another shot. This is what often is behind me right now. You know, I have a mirror because I do a lot with individual consults, helping people find their best look. And I have lights and I have flowers and things. And this is actually a cleaned up version of what's behind me. And then I took all that away to show what you see now. So it just makes a difference, because people aren't going, oh, what's that? What is that behind you? I was in a meeting recently, and this woman had, she was in one of her children's bedrooms, and there's this cool stuff, artwork all over the wall. And I found myself staring at the artwork, and then I started asking questions about the artwork. So again, I realized that I had stopped paying attention to what she was saying. And that's the point, is that we want to stay focused, and we want people to stay focused on us. So the final thing in this section is to try to minimize distractions. If you can get a space that's private, you have a door that you can shut. Many of us have children or other people in the household, and they forget you're on a call, and they come walking through the room, the dog comes bouncing in, and you know, we all have certainly we all understand those things, but you don't want it to be too pervasive. And again, if it's a professional thing, maybe it's a job interview or some meeting with your supervisor, you really want to try and keep those things to a minimum. So if you have a space like I do here that that you can use, I just keep that file box on top of this table that I have, and I keep the light handy, and I'm ready to rock and roll as soon as it's time. And that's really handy if something comes up sort of impromptu, right? And you don't have a lot of time. You're not scrambling trying to figure all those things out. So that's the end of section 1, kind of about backdrops and lighting and angles and things to do with what's going on in your virtual presence. Any questions on that?
See any questions in the chat box, but if anybody has any, feel free to put them in there.
Okay.
And just a time check, we're at 12:18 for time, Candace. So
Okay, well, we'll move on.
perfect.
So section 2 is about how to look your best. So we talked about the background and how that impacts your appearance and your sort of your brand, really. This is about what you do to yourself. And this is a high overview. This is an area I spend a lot of time in and do full workshops on and consults on. So we're just going to hit some high points. You can see with this woman, she's a beautiful young woman, but the black does nothing for her compared to this and a little makeup. She pops more on the right than she does on the left. So color, hair, and makeup, yes, for even men, make a difference. And so I've got some before and afters here of some people that I've worked with. And you can see how this color and a little bit of makeup is making a big difference in her appearance. And here with the guys, we have different hairstyles. This gentleman happens to be an engineer, and he was into the big beards and the just wavy hair and then spiking it up and everything, and he's a professional and was starting to feel like his look wasn't so professional. So and he's got a very long face, so we don't want to make the face look 3 feet longer than it is. So in this case, just cropping the hair, creating a horizontal line, bringing up the beard makes a big difference. So let's get into that a little bit more. So here we have a few before after pictures of men and some simple things. So get a good haircut for your face, and if you need to learn what your face shape is, there's information out there. That's certainly things I do, but working with your barber, whoever you see, to really do something that looks good on you, as opposed to just maybe the way you've always worn it or how you liked it, when you were a bit younger. So getting a good cut is important for your face shape. Trimming facial hair, not having it too long, staying clean shaven if that's what, if you have no facial hair. Keeping everything trimmed in the nose and the ears. Eyebrows, I don't know how many times I've seen some unibrows out there, and that's not the best look. So we want to keep this trimmed, and that's no shame. And going for the men, going to salons and getting those kinds of things cleaned up. If you have blemishes or dark circles, maybe you didn't sleep all that well, a little basic concealer that probably the female in your life or someone else in your life who's used to makeup can help you with, that you're not wearing makeup, but you're just kind of covering that, because if you have a fairly large blemish or something like dark circles, it'll really show up in environments like this. So something for the men to consider, to sort of get, because your face is front and center. And let's talk about the baggy, frumpy look. So we've got a couple people here. Probably everybody recognizes Ashton Kutcher. And then this is just another gentleman. For work-related virtual meetings, wear a collared shirt. Even if it doesn't call for it, it just looks good. And you can't go wrong. And just, not up here, but just maybe one button open, looks professional, yet comfortable. Wear pants that fit. And I realize this is below the waist, and a lot of it, we're talking about above the waist, but I couldn't help commenting on it, because we're all not in this box all the time, and especially as we're moving out and things are opening up more. So one thing I see a lot with men in interviews that I've done over the many years is pants that are real big and baggy, like down here with this gentleman. They don't wear a belt, the pants are too low, that's also increases the bagginess, and it's not a very polished look. Sneakers are not the only shoes available, so we want to be looking at, I don't know how many times I've seen somebody dressed nice and only wearing sneakers. So this guy's got some loafers on, looking, change of shoe doesn't mean uncomfortable, it just means something maybe a little more attractive. If you're on the shorter side, then you can wear your shirts tucked in with a belt, or have them altered to be just below the natural waistline, so that you look taller, because the longer the shirts hang, the shorter you become. And that's true with women as well. If you're perhaps a little on the heavier side, and then you want to wear solid dark colors. That's true in the box like we're sitting in as well. because they'll make you look more slender than brighter colors or patterns. And you certainly don't want anything that's overly clingy. You want shirts that just sort of graze you, not big and baggy, but just sort of graze your shape. So for women, some similar things. We got a before and after here. Again, attractive young woman, but she in a setting like we're talking about, this is certainly more flattering on her than the other. And it's just taking a little bit of time not to present yourself in the best light. So again, the haircut, similar to the men. A good stylist should be able to really look at your face, not just look at the texture of your hair. And if you don't have someone who's paying attention to that, then you probably should find someone who does. If your skin is uneven, a little foundation or powder goes a long way. Same thing with concealer, if you've got some blemishes or dark circles or something. Little eyeshadow, again, the before after really determines about how you're popping there. And learn how to do that for your eye shape. That's a class I teach separate from this, and it really makes a difference in terms of what your eye shape is and how you should apply eyeshadow. Keep your eyebrows plucked, similar to the men, and if they're thin, then put a little eyebrow liner or powder on it, because it really frames your face. Eyebrows make your face look more symmetrical. Put a little blush on. It really defines the cheek, gives you more dimension to your face. And wear lipstick, because it makes your lips pop. I have a Peloton bike in my home, and I noticed this morning when I was doing a ride that the woman who was teaching it had lipstick on. Of course, she's sweating like crazy, but she does that because she knows that she's front and center, and she's not being vain. She's just trying to put across her best appearance because she knows she's on. So if you're in a position where you're on and you're the one doing the speaking and the presenting, that's when this becomes very important. So flattering clothing. So we've got some before and after photos here. Again, this one is not someone I work with. This one is. And you can see the difference just that in what color makes in their appearance. So for virtual meetings like this, I find that wearing V-necks or something scooped that shows a little of the neck, kind of like I'm doing here, it for most people really opens up the face, particularly for people with shorter faces, like people with square or round faces, where that's kind of needed to give you more length in your face. So it just draws attention to your face and is a little more flattering. Don't overdo the accessories, especially for these online meetings. So if you have a scarf, keep the earrings simple. If you have bolder earrings, like I've got some bigger earrings today, I didn't put a necklace with this because I don't want to break that up. It looks better if I just have the earrings and have this open space, because less is more. So you really want to think simple. Unless your features are very dark hair, maybe a little darker skin complexion, avoid black. I know everybody loves black, and black dominates most people's closets, but on your face, most Caucasian people do not look as good in black up here. And you can see that in the example of this woman down here. She pops much more when wearing this color that's much warmer and is about her coloring. And that's something that you can learn what your best colors are as well. Part of the work that I do. If you're shorter, just like I mentioned with the men, tuck in your blouse, pull it a little bit out of your pants or skirt, and just have it hang there, because you'll look taller. Because especially I find this when people, let's say if they've gained a little weight and they tend to wear bigger clothes, and they wear, say, a layered look, and they wear a tunic or something, and it's big and it goes over their hips. depending on the style of that, it can actually make them look larger. And that's true even in this kind of virtual setting. If you've got a shirt that's too big, then you look bigger on the screen because it makes us look bigger anyway. So you want to think more just grazing your body. Again, darker colors work better. Big, bright, anything clingy is not the best. You want something that's more fitting. For everybody, choose a shirt or top that stands out against your backdrop. I'm wearing this sort of orangey type top today, and my background is beige. If my background were dark, I would wear a lighter color so that I stand out against it. And so that can be that nice contrast that we were talking about. Avoid wearing those large prints. Solid colors are better, again, because not only because of the reasons we talked about a moment ago, but also because it's simple, and simple is better in these virtual settings. Don't look at your phone. You know, if you're in a meeting, you know, looking down at your phone and constantly doing this frequently shows that you're really not giving the person your full attention. And that's particularly true if it's a one-on-one or one-on-two kind of thing. So this next one I added because I was in a call the other day and I had just eaten and I thought I better check my teeth. It's a good thing I did. So, you know, just take that quick look in the mirror right before you go on, just to make sure there's nothing there. And we don't want to do things like this, what this woman is doing, you know, sitting here playing with your hair, somebody putting fingers in places we don't need to see. You know, and just avoid fidgeting in general. I was on a call the other day and this woman constantly was doing something to her hair. She was pulling it up, she was flipping it around, and it made me feel like she was uncomfortable with her appearance and didn't like her hair. And she could have just been bored, I don't know, but it was distracting. So try not to be fidgety and just kind of stay in place. Any questions on that? That's a high overview of some quick things to think about in your visual with yourself in these settings. We good?
I don't see any questions at this point, so we can continue.
Moving on. Okay, how are we doing on time? All right, 12:30, good. So what you post, section 3 is about your online presence, because this whole presentation is about your brand and how what you do virtually impacts that. So your online self is an extension of your offline self, and it impacts your image. So I don't know if you know this, but 93% of recruiters are looking at social media, not just placing ads there, but looking at what you are posting. And over the many years that I've had staff and been involved in hiring and things, I mean, you always go out and just look, see what the person is doing. And you don't want someone, you know, especially if you've never met them, thinking a negative image of you. I had someone once who, in their LinkedIn profile, they were really, in terms of looking at their paper, you know, their resume and all that, it looked great. And I thought, oh, this guy might be pretty good. And I started poking around, and I found on their LinkedIn profile, they had a picture of them standing at a bar holding a beer, looking like they're having a grand old time. And that is totally inappropriate in a LinkedIn profile setting. So that told me about their judgment. It told me that, you know, they're not paying attention. And as someone who is going to be in a PR type sales setting, I didn't feel it was a good fit. So he got eliminated. And so pay attention to that. So let's look at some do's and don'ts. So post as though everything can be seen by everyone. You know, focus on things you're proud of and accomplishments, and not in a bragging kind of way, but keep it positive. Comments, you know, updates, keep it light. If you feel, you know, especially these days, there's a lot of posts about politics and things. It's your own judgment, but it can come off to someone who has never met you before in a negative way and give a negative impression. So kind of want to keep it just straight up positive. Use LinkedIn to the fullest. Keep your profile up to date. You know, list your experience, your skills, and so forth. Get involved with groups. Make links to your blogs and your websites, and if you've got a Twitter handle that you use often. You know, just all the relevant things. But what you don't want to do is what I commented on a moment ago, is to post some things that are pretty controversial potentially. And again, it's your own decision to make, but the question I always ask is it worth jeopardizing your future career? Because you don't know who might be on the other side of you at some point and have looked at that, and you might get tossed out in terms of who's being considered. You know, this gets back to my LinkedIn thing. Don't, you know, drinking and all that stuff. Don't post while you're drinking. Don't post pictures of you drinking. Just keep those pictures on your phone. Share them with your friends, you know, through private messaging or just texting, but don't put it on your social profile. If you're currently employed, don't post while you're, you know, in your job hours. It just doesn't reflect well on you. If you take pictures and you're prone to tagging people in them, especially if it involves a coworker, you know, you want to think about how you would feel if the situation were reversed. Would you want to be tagged in that photo that you're looking to post? And the best thing to do is always to ask the person's permission, because that impacts their virtual presence. So you don't want to take assumptions with that. A few things on LinkedIn. Don't lie or embellish your profile. People will find out. Don't overpost or spam your connections. You know, keep asking them for things. Try not to be overly critical or negative in the groups. Don't ask people you don't know, you know, for recommendations, and don't ask new connections to endorse you. I mean, they've barely gotten to know you. They may not even know you at all because you've asked to link with them through, say, a second party. And you just have to be very careful about how you go about approaching someone that doesn't know you. And that also is true for asking about linking with them. You know, there's that regular text that normally is there that says, I'd like to link with you. It's more impactful if you write something of your own message instead of just taking that one that's given. Don't use, you know, LinkedIn to promote your Facebook page and likes and so forth. It just kind of makes you look desperate. So, and only use a professional looking photo on your LinkedIn page. And I'm focusing on LinkedIn right here, separate from the others, just because we're talking more professional setting, and this really needed kind of a call out. So the guiding question really to end this section is, you know, if someone's never met you before, would they have a negative first impression of whatever it is you're about to post? And just think about it. And if you're not sure, ask somebody. But judgment is really important here, because I have seen this a lot of times, and that's particularly true if you are working with someone or potentially interviewing with someone who's in the 50+ crowd, because they didn't grow up with this, and decorum and that kind of thing, and what you're doing online is they're even more sensitive to it than somebody, let's say, who's in their 30s. And so the generational gap makes a difference. I mean, it's important to manage no matter what, but especially with that generational difference, which are mostly a lot of the people that you might be interviewing with. So that is it for that section. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in the group chat, and it looks like we're at 12:38 for time, so we're making good time.
Good. Okay. So the last section is about preparing for the job interview. Obviously, this is a larger topic than what we're going to talk about today, that we can't have time to talk about today. But as I said in the description for this workshop, we're going to look at some common interview questions that you should prepare for. So I picked the top 5. There are more, but the top 5. So here's a good one. Tell me about yourself. So kind of wide open. So what they really want to know is, why are you a good fit for the job? So we're looking at, you don't want to give too much personal information or too little, but you want to give them a little something that tells them more than your resume does. They've already seen that. So, a little something about your interest or experience that don't relate directly to your work, but might be a hobby or something that really kind of makes it more interesting to know about yourself. For example, I'm a certified group exercise instructor, and I have been for 10 years. So, that's not something that's going to be on my resume, but it tells a little bit about me and that they might not already know, and kind of adds to it. The second question, why do you want this job? So what they want to know is what you know about their company and the job that you're applying for. Not that you're just kind of going around and applying to every job that comes your way. So how to answer, make sure you research them well. And then what you're really doing when you're answering this question is it's a sales pitch. I mean, the whole interview is a sales pitch, but this question in particular is a sales pitch because you have to demonstrate not only that you know their company and why you think you're a good fit for them, but also why they're a good fit for you and the job. So here's a little example of that you could use, or something like that. You've been following them, you like something about them. In this case, they like the emphasis or the overall culture, if you will, and you want to be part of that, and you think this job is a great fit for your experience, and here's why, and you go on. Question 3, what is your greatest strength? Everybody always asks that one. So they want to know how qualified you are for the position. And you're going to want to focus on attributes that qualify you for that specific job, but that will also set you apart. So like in this example, this person is basically saying that curiosity is a strength. And then we'll go on to say why it is, as a cybersecurity specialist, why is curiosity a really good strength to have for that kind of job. And there might be other attributes that you would have that are similar nature. So try to give some thought to this one. What is your greatest weakness? So what they really want to know is how well you can answer a difficult question under pressure, and also your judgment. So, what are you choosing to pull out and share? And so you want to obviously turn your weakness into a strength. So maybe something you've improved, and how you've taken steps to correct it. Here's an example. Maybe you're a procrastinator, and this is how putting early deadlines to be done in advance so that they're not late and they don't procrastinate is a way that they've chosen to deal with it. We all have our weaknesses. Don't pretend that you don't. And just picking something and showing how you've managed it. You might have one or two that you would like to pull out of the hat, depending upon what the circumstances of the job interview are. Question 4, why do you want to leave, or have you left your current job? So this is another judgment question, really, because they already know you're somewhat qualified, or you wouldn't be in the interview to begin with. So they're looking to find out, what are you going to say? How do you show respect? Are you going to, diss your former employer or your current employer? In which case that could reflect on them some way down the road if you happen to be employed with them because you get the job. So you want to stick with the facts, leave emotion out of it. Doesn't matter if you didn't get along with somebody or they didn't support you in the right way. Leave that aside and focus on your career and the facts about what you want to achieve and why that maybe could not have been achieved in that environment. So just be direct, stay focused, you know, I learned a lot with so-and-so company, but I'm ready to take the next step. And, you know, those opportunities weren't available to me there. And I feel that your organization can provide me with that. And I see a lot of growth potential. So something like that, never always take the high road no matter what, because it just will reflect better on you in the long run. And the last top question, describe a difficult work situation or project and how you overcame it. So they want to know how you respond well, you know, under pressure and in kind of stress or things that go wrong. So the worst thing you could do is pretend like, well, I've never really had a problem, because we all have at some point or another. And have a couple in your pocket that you have thought through that you can pull from. Here's an example. Maybe if you're somebody who has supervised someone, you know, in this case, finding, you know, letting people go is a difficult thing under any circumstance. And how this person went about doing that by just keeping an even tone, not getting emotional, being straightforward, and giving them their pink slip if the case warranted it, or trying to work with them otherwise. But they don't enjoy it, they don't like it, but they're making the best of it, and they show how. So I'm sure all of you have numerous settings that you could pull from, but just really work through that, even write it down. I find that's a good way to flush it out and remember it. We always remember more when we use more of our senses. So writing it down and kind of fleshing out what that looks like and what the answer is will help you remember it when you're on the spot in a setting like this. So we have flown through that. We're doing really well. It's 12:45. I don't know if you have any questions on that or anything we've talked about. That is the conclusion of what I had to present today. So open to comments, questions from the group.
I don't see any questions in the chat box, but everybody feel free to put something in there if you have a question. Maybe give it a couple minutes and see if anybody has a question.
Great. Again, this is kind of a high level. Each of these subjects you could really delve into, but we only have an hour. So, yeah,
a lot of good information for sure. Thank you for
thanks.
joining us.
And
well, I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't see any questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to add today, or?
No, I mean, other than just pay attention. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have been on a lot of these group meetings lately, and the impressions that we give in our settings really do make a difference. And as some of us were talking before this began, this virtual gathering is not likely to go away anytime soon. It'll probably be part of our lives for some time to come. And maybe actually forever altered, because a lot of people will be choosing to work from home more than ever because it's nice. And so, you know, without having that in-person connection that we all really rely on as humans to engage with others and feel that, well, that connection to another person or persons, the virtual space can really put a barrier to that. And so doing some of the things that we've talked about today can kind of help bring that down, especially looking into the camera, like I said, and also just paying attention to everything, what's around you, behind you, the light, how you look in it, and taking a little time to just be your best you. It's not about subscribing to, you know, some magazine version or perfect version of to aspire to be. It's about being your best you, which is why I do what I do. I like to help people look good so that they feel good, and then they can connect better with everybody else. Because if you have that positive energy, you put that into everything else in your life, and it's felt, whether it's felt virtually or when we all get together again. That energy is palpable, negative or positive, and You want it to be as positive as possible for yourself more than anything else. So, and it'll impact your opportunities. So I hope I've helped with that a little bit today. Anybody has any questions or want to learn any more about some of the topics we've talked about, feel free to message me like you see on the screen, and I'm happy to answer them.
We do have a question that just came through, actually, Candace. It's from Amanda Cooley. She said, what do you control for background, or what do you do to control for background noises? Do you recommend earbuds?
If you're in a pretty noisy setting, then yes, if there's no other choice. Remember to mute your phone. That's timely. Yes, I mean, I think earbuds are pretty mainstream, and if you don't have a door you can shut, or if there's loud noises, going on that just come through a door being shut, then yes, I think earbuds work fine, because that says you really care about focusing on who's speaking, and that you're going to be listening to them and you don't want any other distractions. So I think earbuds work fine.